Service. What is up, listeners? Welcome back to another episode of the Full Service Podcast. I am Tank Smith, your host. Today is episode 47. Thanks for being here. Shout out to my guest from last week, Ginger Rose. Ginger, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. That was a lot of fun. If you have not yet, check out last week's episode. Give Ginger a follow. She's on Twitter at Ginger Wilds. That is Ginger, W-I-L-D-E-S. She's also on OnlyFans.com/GingerRose85. I have a link to both her Twitter and OnlyFans in the Libsyn page from last week, so make sure you hit that Libsyn page. Give her a follow. While you're there, we're also on Twitter. We are on Instagram at FullServicePod. My personal Instagram and Twitter at TankFunkadelic. Give me a follow as well. If you fancy the podcast, if you like what's happening here, make sure you hit that like button, hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button. We are everywhere you can find podcasts. We're also on YouTube, so if you're listening to us on YouTube, hey, hit that subscribe button. That would truly help. Ratings really do help for visibility for podcasts, so if you're able to, if you could give us a 5-star rating, and if you're really feeling the podcast, hit us with that review. That'd be truly incredibly helpful. I recently posted on our Instagram page this week. I have some magnets for the podcast, some sex work is work magnets, as well as a small penis vagina North Carolina magnets. So if you're into that, hit the Libsyn page. The magnets are $4, and all stickers that we have available are $2. So if you want to support the podcast, I will send you a fucking sticker magnet. It'll be a good time. But no, I appreciate you being here. Episode 47. What is on the agenda today? If you listen to last week's episode, I mentioned that I told my parents about the podcast, so I wanted to talk about that. This is actually the, I guess, like 1 year anniversary at the sort of the beginning of July of interviewing people for the podcast. I recently went to, I don't have a job, so my days are pretty open. I'm probably like, what do you want to do today, Tank? Let's, play a board game today? All right. Go drive somewhere? Let's do that shit. So last week I went to the Georgia Guidestones. I guess it was, I don't even know, sometime last week. It was, so I'll talk about that. And there's a Reddit post right now in the sex workers subreddit about how to find a safe provider. I'll talk about that. That's actually a really good post. I'll actually put a link to it in the Libsyn page as well for this week. I'll look at the Earn It Act a little bit, and then we'll wrap it up. We'll say goodbye. We'll see how long we'll be here today. I try to hit that half-hour mark for the solo episodes, but I appreciate you being here. Before we do any of that, I got a Twitter poll for you, baby. Oh boy. I asked some questions to the people, and the people responded. I asked clients, how many dates have you had since COVID started? Which I didn't put in the question, but I kind of equated to around like Marches or so. The answers, still waiting, 1 to 3 dates, 4 to 7 dates, or 8+ dates. Still waiting, 33%. That was 35 votes. 1 to 3 dates, 36%, 38 votes. 4 to 7 dates rolled in at 12% with 13 votes. And 8+ dates, 19%, 20 votes. We got the ballers out there. Shout out to those 8+ people. How y'all doing? Y'all living large. I feel you. Hell yeah. As for me, I'm on the old 1 to 3 range. The last time I've seen somebody was March, so I guess 1 to 3. I feel like I'm still like nervous about Corona. I don't know. And I noticed like nobody says Corona now. It's COVID, but I'm pulling out the old throwback, calling it Corona. Yeah. So 106 days. Shout out to everybody who participated in the Twitter poll. I really appreciate it. And if you retweeted it, hey, shout out to you. I really think so. Hit me up. I'll send you a sticker just for that because I like you. But no, I mentioned it earlier. This is, I guess, July of last year marks, I guess, was the first time I ever interviewed anybody for the podcast. So I'm recording this on Monday, the 3rd of August, so it's been almost a month. But yeah, the 8th of July last year is when I did my first interview with Haley Muse. And I was looking up, the 23rd was when I did the second interview with Daisy. I haven't used the Daisy interview yet, so I don't think anybody, well, actually I did. I had it on SoundCloud for a while before I launched the podcast. I had it up. So if you've been fucking with a podcast since the SoundCloud days, you might have heard the interview. But if you just started listening in October or later, you probably haven't heard the interview. I'll probably put it up. I've been thinking about doing a Patreon for kind of any interviews that I haven't kind of aired. I have a few, so I might put them on Patreon, but we'll see. It's still in the works. But yeah, I 1 year doing the podcast. It's fucking crazy. I appreciate all the guests that have been on the podcast so far. When I started, I had no fucking I had no idea what was gonna happen. I was like, "Well, people want to talk to me because it's a strange thing. Like, hey, can you talk about yourself to potentially no one or potentially the whole world?" And I think it's been a great thing. So fucking, if you've been on the podcast, I truly appreciate it. If you listen to the podcast, I truly appreciate it. I went to the Georgia Guidestones, I guess like sometime last week, and I was listening to some old episodes, and I'm like, wow, Tank, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. You're asking leading questions, and it's terrible. So it's come a long way. I feel like if you just started listening to podcasts, go back and listen to some older episodes, and you'll hear me, and you're like, Tank, you're asking leading questions. You really don't know what you're talking about, and I feel like we've progressed a long way since July of 2019, and I'll just continue to get better. I got a lot of interviews lined up, so I'm excited for what the future of the podcast will bring. It's exciting. It's exciting. Like I mentioned, I went to the Georgia Guidestones. If you don't know what it is, it's basically like it's this granite monument. I guess it's like outside of Elberton, Georgia, which it took me like probably like 2 hours to get there from Atlanta. It's almost like South Carolina, but it's kind of like Stonehenge, like the British Stonehenge, but it's like the tech deck version. I feel like if you if you would equate it to that, Stonehenge the skateboard, and the Georgia Guidestones is the tech deck. But it's basically this dude in the '80s. I just found out about this like last week. I listened to a podcast, and so I was like, hey, let's go. RC Christian is a dude in the '80s in Albert. He's not from Georgia. He went to Elberton, Georgia. They're a huge granite manufacturing city. And he's like, hey, I want to build these guide stones, which is basically 10 rules for life. And he wanted to make them like 20 feet high and like all this shit. But basically, like, the dude at the granite factory was skeptical of him. And then he gave him a quote at like a couple $100,000 in like today's money. And the dude was like, yeah, let's still do it. And so they built these giant granite stones with like 10 rules on them, and they're kind of like arranged at an X, and there's eight different languages all saying the same thing, and there's 10 different rules. Basically, this guy was like the Lorax, if you want to equate it to anything. And they got English, Spanish, Swahili, Hindi, Arabic, Hebrew, Chinese, and Russian. And basically, yeah, it's like be cool with nature. Also, he called for like the world population should be around like 500 million, and at that time when he was putting it out, there was at least like 5 billion people on Earth. So people were like, "Is this dude calling for like a genocide?" But he's like, "No, I just want to build some granite rocks." And then he gave it back to the county, Elbert County, and so now they own it. So I guess if you're if you're in somewhere within driving distance of Atlanta, you could probably live in Tennessee or South Carolina or like North Carolina and go to this thing, but it's just like some big granite rocks with some rules for life etched on them. One's like exercise or something, I think, and something's about we need diversity. Something's like smoke weed every day. It was crazy. So if you want to go to these rocks, check them out. It's the tech deck version of Stonehenge. There's really not people around, so hey, you can social distance away. I think there's some like equinox shit with it too. Like there's some holes. If you look through it at a certain time, it'll tell you when the aliens are coming back. I don't really know, but it's a good time. Go check it out if you're in the if you're in the area. I mentioned it last week. I talked to my parents about the podcast. I had been on the fence. I've been like skeptical about this for like the longest time, and after telling them, I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I really had, like, what the fear was. I still think that we don't really talk like money or anything that I've spent. I think that will still be an issue for them, but it was cool. They were super supportive. I wasn't sure how I was gonna do it. I was like, should I like sit them both down and be like, hey parents, this is what's happening? but I decided to talk to my mom first. I feel like whenever I have like a thing, I'm like, oh, let me just talk to my mom first, and then like then tell my dad, and then he'll find out she already knows this thing. I don't know. I did that when I got kicked out of my when I got like kicked out of my dorm room in college. I went to NC State, and when I moved into my dorm like on a Friday, and my parents drove me up from Georgia. And when I brought I brought a whole bunch of weed in the car. I brought like a bong. I brought like a scale. I'm like, this is college. This is gonna be awesome. Let's fucking blaze it up or whatever. And so I moved into my dorm room on Friday, and my roommate moved in on Saturday. And I didn't know this dude at all. He was from Apex. And I was like, yo, you cool with me smoking weed in the room? He's like, oh, yeah, for sure. On Saturday before he moved in, I think we watched he and my like sweet mates watched like American Pie 2. And then he moved in. I smoked weed in front of him Saturday. Sunday, he wakes up, leaves for the whole day. And then Sunday night, campus police come and knock on my door. Okay, and I'm like, hey, what's happened? I hadn't smoked since like earlier that day, so I'm like, what could they possibly want? And they're like, hey, we heard a rumor that somebody reported that they smelled aware of marijuana coming out of like this area, and we just wanted to check to see if you knew anything about it. And I was like, yeah, I don't know anything about that, officers. That's crazy. And they're like, well, I guess you wouldn't mind if we search your room. And I was like, search away, officers. I have nothing to hide. But then I did have something to hide. They found my bong, scale, and weed like too fast. It was like they were like, okay, we know the hiding spots under the bed, desk drawer, top of the closet. Boom, boom, boom. Got all my weed, and they found beer as well. In North Carolina, weed's decriminalized, so you don't go to jail for it. I was expecting to get the cuffs, but all they did was give me a ticket. It was fucking amazing. So I had to, tell my parents about this, being that it was literally 3 days into me fucking moving, going to college. So I called my mom first, and I remember telling her, and I only told him about the alcohol initially. I was like, oh yeah, I had like beer in my room. She was still upset about that. I told my dad, he was upset. They were both upset. It was a lot of, it was very upsetting for them, and I moved into my dorm room on Friday. The campus police came on Sunday. I went to student conduct on Monday, got kicked out of my dorm, and classes started on Wednesday. So that was the big beginning of my college experience. But I feel like I've always, been able to like talk to my mom. So, I mean, even in this case was the same. So I usually go to my parents' house to like do like I fucking like mow their lawn and shit. So I went and I'm talking to my mom. She just had like hip surgery, so she's just at home right now. So I was talking to her and I was like, hey, just before I tell you what I'm about to tell you, I just want you to know, like, everything's okay. I'm like, I'm here right now. We're fine. And I'm like thinking, I'm like, why am I being so fucking like serious about this thing? I'm about to tell her, hey, I have a podcast. What the fuck? Like, it's it's truly, it's nothing to be like what like. I was like, what? Why am I being so like uptight about it? But then I'm like, hey, a lot of comedians they have podcasts. Do you know what podcasts are? And she's like, is that where you like talking to the phone? And I'm like, it's yeah, sure. It's like a radio show, it's like having your own radio show. And I'm like, I have one of these. I have a podcast where I interview sex workers and like talk about the sex industry and like whatever. And I was like, do you know what sex workers are? And she's like, not really. You're talking about like prostitutes. I'm like, yeah, but it's not like confined to just that. It's like anybody in the sex business. It could be like somebody that does like phone sex. It could be somebody that sells panties. It could be full service sex workers. It could be like someone who does camming, like anything. And my mom, she's still like, she's in her 60s right now. She doesn't know about like webcamming, shit like that. So it's kind of like blowing her mind. But when I tell her like, hey, I wanted to hit him with the download numbers. So I'm like, hey, we've had like, since it started in October, like at least like 12,000 people have downloaded this. Right now we're at like 15. And I've had so many people reach out and they're like, they really, how they view sex work and like people that do sex work and, clients and this whole world, they see it differently just from listening to the podcast. And, my mom, she's like, I never thought of it like that. And I think like anybody who's, putting something positive out in the world, I really support it. She just asked me a bunch of questions, like, how did this podcast happen? What made you interested in it? All this stuff. And I told her, and she was like, I really support this. I think what you're doing is a great thing. So I was like, oh my God, fucking weightlifted. This is fucking beautiful. Which, like, multiple people told me, like, like, yo, tell your parents about the podcast. What the fuck are you doing? So I told her, and then I told my dad. He's pretty much the same thing. He didn't really ask as many questions as my mom. I thought too, like, I was like, this is a good thing that, like, talking about sex, because at least for me growing up, my parents, I was raised Baptist, and, talking about sex was not a thing that we really did. I mean, I think that I had, like, the sex talk with my dad. I think he called condoms jimmies, maybe. Like, that's how, like, it was an outdated conversation we had. And I'm like, we never talked about sex. And I think, like, just having an open, like, dialogue with somebody, it's not like it takes away this fucking, like, stigma or veil behind sex, or even it's makes it more comfortable so we can have a fucking conversation. Because if you don't know shit and then you're getting situations you're not, I don't know, it's just like, makes it better when you have a fucking open dialogue about shit. And, she agreed, and then she opened up to me and told me about, like, I guess when she was 16, her dad came to her, like, she and her dad were really close. And he was like, hey, I know you're like 16 now, so if you want to go, like, on birth control, like, you can do that. And, like, she said, like, she was, like, so offended when he said that. And, and then she realizes now, like, it was so much more than just, like, literally a sex thing, like, fucking periods and shit. Like, oh, fucking, you guys know birth control. You guys know what's up. One thing she did ask me, she was like, are you cursing on the podcast? And I'm like, yes, I am cursing. But she's like, well, I don't want to hear any GDs. So I told her I'd work on it. So I'm not trying to say that anymore. We'll see what happens. I'll still use it in the old personal life, because your boy can't be held down. I'll try to not use it on the podcast out of respect for the madre. I love her a lot. Like, thinking back now, I was like, all, like, just so irrational about what I thought was going to happen when I told them about the podcast. I'm like, I literally talked to people. Like, that's they were just like, they just like, hey, be safe. And I'm like, I am being safe, and I've always been safe, and I will continue to be safe. But I appreciate your concern. But yeah, I told him about the podcast. Everything's good. So hey, now spam them with the podcast. I will force them to give me a 5-star review, 5-star rating, and buy all my merch. So I don't get that shit for free. You want this shit? You gotta pay. This is exclusive content. Well, I had to break them off a few stickers and magnets, because, I'm a sweet boy. I'm a sweet boy at heart. Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about a post that is currently on the sex worker subreddit. It's how to find a safe provider. I feel like it's pretty much it's a really good resource for any client out there that's unsure. Like, if you're kind of new to seeing sex workers, you want to kind of get into it. Even if you're like an existing client, you've seen people, I feel like this is a really great resource. So I'm gonna go through that, but I'm also gonna put a link to it on the Libsyn page. So if you want to go to that link, check it out. I feel like it's a great article. They have it broken down into a few different sections. First section is look at reputable websites. The second section is choosing and researching a provider. The next section is kind of like additional steps you can take, and how to contact a provider, and date etiquette. So hey, it fucking covers all this shit. So go to the Libsyn page, fucking click this article, or just listen to this podcast, because I'm going to tell you exactly what it says. I'm just trying to make it easier for the people. The first section, look at ads on reputable websites. They have a few websites listed. They have Tryst, Eros, Private Delights, Slixa. Those are my, like, top 4 if I'm going to any sites. They also have Adult Search and Preferred 411 as other reputable websites to use. There are also, I've mentioned plenty of other websites on the podcast so far, and pretty much whatever websites you're going to see are kind of like relegated to the area of where you are. If people that are in your area are not advertising on Tryst, Eros, Private Delights, Slixa, Adult Search, or Preferred 411, you're not going to be able to use those sites to book people. So you're always going to be bound by the websites people are using in your area. Those are just an example of a few like bigger sites, but they might not be around in your area. There's also mention social media. There's so many people have Twitters, have Instagrams. So social media is another way to find providers as well. Choosing and researching a provider. Yes, you'll have to take some time to do some research and not go in blindly. No research is the best way to get into bad situations. Research honestly takes about 20 minutes. I'll say it probably takes more than 20 minutes. Yeah, I mentioned in the interview I did, I guess when Haley interviewed me for 37, I probably looked into it for a couple months before I ended up seeing anybody. But they have types of ads to stay away from. Extremely explicit ads. I will agree with this. When I got taken for the old $250 in March, the ad that I sent this lady money for said $250 for all three holes. Well, I did not want all three holes. It was an explicit ad, and your boy got scammed for. If you ever listen to that episode, I don't even know what episode it is, but maybe like around the 20s. But actually, it's probably 30s now. I don't fucking know. But your boy got taken for like $250 back in March. They also have ads with vulgar or XXX photos. I'd agree with that. But also, there's plenty of reputable providers that have fucking nudity and pics, so that's pretty that's pretty loose with that. And their third bullet point is brand new ads that were recently created within the last week. I'd agree with that. I would look up when you're doing research, look up somebody that has like a pretty good ad history so you know they've been doing it for a while. New ads can be scams. New ads can be 100% real. You just really honestly have to do your research and spend time looking shit up online. They have a section, do look providers that have an ad history of posting on multiple websites. Ayo, consistent and posting frequency is a great indicator of a real provider. Has an active social media presence. Twitter's the most common, followed by Instagram and OnlyFans as well. Has a personal websites with the rate and booking process laid out. You'll find a lot of people have websites. A lot of people do not have websites. But you'll find that the people that do have websites are tend to be legitimate. But fucking like I said, plenty of people do not have their own websites, so that is definitely not a deal breaker by any fucking stretch of the imagination at all. Do look providers that have a screening process. Providers screen people all different ways, but you want to make sure that they do actually. Some people won't screen you at all. They will say, come right over. That is exactly what happened with the all three hole situation. And I lost $250. And that was just me being fucking incredibly dumb. But people screen people to make sure that they're safe. So if in police stings, if they do not screen somebody. Someone's like, hey, I want to book this thing. They're like, okay, cool, come over right now. They show up in the hotel room and they're like, hey, what's up, dude? We're the police. You're going to jail. I will not take that N64 for you. You are going directly to jail and you don't get $200. Jesus Christ, I've been playing too much Monopoly. I gotta stop. But yeah, make sure that the person you're reaching out to has some sort of screening process. That's probably a red flag if they don't. Some people will want IDs. I've said this a million times. Some people want IDs. Some people want LinkedIn. Some people may want to talk to you on the phone. Some people want to see your mail. I actually saw that recently for the first time. Someone's like, hey, I want to see mail. I've never seen that before, but they'll always, whoever you're contacting, if they're a reputable provider, they will have a screening process. So they will screen you to make sure that they are safe, because you could be fucking anybody, you know? They have additional steps you can take to kind of make sure that the provider you're seeing is legitimate. If you Google someone's phone number, you will see what websites they advertise on. Probably might have a link to their social media, reviews. I've talked about reviews many times. They're subjective. So if you're reading reviews, keep in mind that this could be completely false. It could be legitimate. There's really no way to know based on reviews, but if you're somebody that likes to read reviews, they can be helpful. Also, reverse image search. Like I keep using the example because I've only really got ripped off that one time. But fucking all three holes chick. 200. Also, I don't know if it's a chick, by the way. It could have been a dude. It could have been a guy. I'm leaning more towards a guy. When I showed somebody the text message, there was like, this is a dude pretending to be a chick. But reverse image search the image. I did a reverse image search on the person that I sent money to on Cash App, and it came back as a porn photo set from like 2007. So if you Google reverse somebody's images and it comes up as a stock photo, those are fake. They're using fake photos, and they're most likely not real. The next section on how to contact a provider. Pre-book an appointment as far ahead as possible. Some providers do not take same-day appointments. A lot of people don't take same-day appointments. Those that usually do require a few hours' notice, have lives that are often not available within the hour for new clients. Before contacting a provider, make sure to read their ad and website in its entirety. Contacting a provider and asking about something that is clearly on their ad is a great way to be ignored, blocked, or chewed out. Do not ask about specific services. Talk explicitly. You are paying for time. I cannot reiterate that enough. You are paying for someone's time. You're not paying for any kind of act that that person is going to do with you. If you are talking to somebody and you start discussing acts, that is where illegality comes in, and your ass can fucking go to jail. So fucking don't talk explicitly about anything. You are paying for someone's time solely. And I feel like I sound like an old grandpa lecturing a freshly turned 18-year-old child. Hey, stop talking explicitly. If somebody requires a deposit, it says do not put down more than a 50% deposit. I've definitely sent somebody the whole money for the appointment before. I've sent 20%. It really depends on the person, but in this article they say don't put down more than 50% deposit. Fucking do whatever you feel comfortable with. But I sent this lady $250 on Cash App, lady or dude, who knows? And then they stopped replying to my text messages. So hey, do not haggle donations. Hey, bro or ladies. Don't fucking, if someone's rate is fucking $350 an hour, that's how much it fucking costs. If you don't have $350, you got to see somebody else that costs less than that. Do not haggle somebody. Do not text hi, are you available, or hey baby as your first message to somebody. Do not contact multiple escorts at the same time. It's rude and wastes our time. Hey, don't fucking I see you out there hitting up 3 people and you're like, hey, the first person that responds is fucking, hey, be cool, just chill. Do not send dick pics or explicit pics and videos. I've literally been hanging out with somebody and they get a dick pic from a client and they're like, what the fuck is like, hey, don't fucking, unless someone asks you for a dick pic, no one wants to see your dick. It says many providers do not accept phone calls from new clients. They'll probably state on their ads if that's their policy, but text or email is the recommended contact method. There's even a template for contacting a provider for the first time. Hi, hello, my name is John Smith, age 45. I found your ad on Trist and would like to set up a date. I was hoping to meet you on Tuesday, May 7th at 6 p.m. for a 2-hour in-call. My schedule is flexible as well. I've attached my screening details to the message. Please let me know if you need any further screening. I look forward to meeting you. Boom, baby. That's a professional, wonderful message right there. The more detailed your message, the more likely that somebody will respond to you. But definitely nobody's responding to hi, you up, you avail. That's definitely not going to work. Last section, date etiquette. Once your date is set, read their ad on the website to see if they had any etiquette laid out about cleanliness, handling of the donation, etc. Some people may want to have the donation in an envelope that's provided like on the dresser as soon as you meet them. They'll probably have it in their listed on their website. But if not, set the donation down upon getting to the fucking date, Some providers require you to shower on arrival. Fucking don't argue with anybody. Just fucking shower, clean that dick. Bringing a gift or tip is not required. However, it's always appreciated, and a great way to gain status is a good regular. Hey, will it work? I don't know, but this article says it will. If you see someone from an agency, then 100% do bring a tip, because that agency is taking a cut of whatever they get. So fucking tip somebody. Be, I know them people with them 8 dates a month. They tip it out there. They the ballers. So shout out to them. Please show up clean and freshly showered, washed. Clean that dick. Clean that asshole. Fucking clean, motherfuckers. And I'm so angry. I'm just like, this dude's so. People listen to this like he is so mean right now. Show up to the date on time. Don't ask the provider like personal questions like, fucking, do you have kids? Are you married? Are you in school? Fucking, if they bring it up, whatever. But fucking, Don't try to pry into people's lives and shit. And the last tip, just relax, enjoy your time, and have fun. And be cool, like I said every time. But yeah, I'm going to put I feel like this whole article I've just been like reading this, just like berating people and shit. But hey, I'll put a link to it in the Libsyn page. I think it's I think it's a great article. So fucking if you're a client out there, fucking check it out and click that link. I was listening to the Peep Show podcast the other day. Fucking listen to that podcast. It's a great podcast on sex work, a lot of sex work news. They had an episode come out the other day about the Earn It Act. It is the Eliminating Abusive and Rampant Neglect of Interactive Technologies Act of 2020. It's called the Earn It Act. It was introduced by Senator Lindsey Graham. But the proponents of the bill say it's meant to prevent child sexual abuse online, basically recommending that tech companies meet certain standards, calls for a national commission to develop like a yet to be defined best practices for platforms to comply to make sure they earn 230 protections so they can't be litigated against. So Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act basically allows free speech on the internet. So users were able to basically post whatever they want, and platforms aren't liable for shit that people post on their website. So they aren't able to be sued about it. But basically, SESTA FOSTA of 2018 amended that so that websites could be liable for shit that people post on the website pertaining to sex work. They painted it under the guise of sex trafficking, but basically any kind of sex work talk or advertising could make the websites liable to be sued. So a lot of websites went down in 2018 as a response to FOSTA SESTA. Backpage went down right before it was passed into law, and Craigslist followed there shortly after with their they took down their personals ad because they did not want to be sued. They basically took away people's free speech to talk about sex work on the internet. And the Earn It Act basically is like FOSTA SESTA 2.0. It was just passed by approved by the Senate Judiciary Committee on the 23rd of July. It's not yet a law, but if you want to know more about this, fucking listen to the Peep Show podcast. They did an episode, I think it was 59. They talked about the Earn It Act with Mistress Blunt. I'll post a link to that episode and the Libsyn page for this week, so you can check it out. But it's definitely super informational, and the Earn It Act will be a big piece of legislation passing probably this year, maybe next year, that will have a huge impact on the internet and sex workers. So fucking check that episode out. Before I want to get out of here, I want to talk about something not related to the podcast. I found out on Tuesday one of my friends, Hannah Wilder, passed away. First met her, we've been friends since fucking elementary school. I guess we first met probably first or second grade, but we're friends in friends in elementary school, probably arch enemies in middle school, but became friends again in high school, throughout college. Basically 24 years we've been friends. But I found out on Tuesday she passed away. Somebody messaged me on Instagram. This girl, she was like, "Hey, I know you were close friends with Hannah. She talked about you all the time. I worked with her at the restaurant. I'm so sorry for your loss. If you find out any funeral stuff, let me know." And this is the first I'd heard of it. I'm like, what the I just talked to her Friday night. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And she told me she worked with Hannah and then sent me the email that the restaurant sent out to all the employees letting everybody know she passed away. And I was in shock. I was like, what the this is crazy. I went and talked to her roommate and got in touch with her dad and stuff. It's real. It's insane. I've had people close to me, they were, I guess kind of acquaintances pass away, but having somebody you're really good friends with, it's shocking. I don't know. I don't know if I'm still just in shock, but it's crazy to me. She was such a good musician. She cared about people. She loved people. She wasn't afraid to tell people how she felt about something. her laugh is fucking contagious. She's trying to say she was funny. I will say I definitely was funnier, but she laughs so much. Like I feel like I laugh a lot. Like my buddy's like, dude, in these solo episodes, I feel like you laugh like somebody trying to sell something to somebody at a flea market. They're really unsure, so they're just laughing to make the person feel at ease. But Hannah loved it. You'll hear she loved to laugh a lot, and she was contagious. She was one of the first people I guess I kind of hung out with when I moved back from North Carolina last year. We fucking watched like all of Watchmen together. I don't know. I'm definitely gonna miss her. She would help me on the podcast whenever I do like episodes where I would record remotely. I use Zencaster, so I'd always call Hannah first so that we'd kind of like test out the audio and stuff to make sure that everything was sounding good before the interviews. She was going to help me reach out to sponsors for the podcast. She was always so super supportive. She'd give me ideas for the podcast, what kind of questions to ask. It's just crazy to think that she's not here anymore. I was looking through Zencaster the other day, and I found a recording from December where she was like trying to like help me set up audio. So at the end of this episode, I'll like play that clip, just to fucking immortalize that conversation. Yeah. If you knew Hannah, she's a great person, and if you didn't know Hannah, then too bad for you. You really missed out. She's dope. But hey, fucking episode 47. I think that's all I really wanted to talk about today. I wanted to end on that because that's kind of what's happened in my life. But we will be back next Tuesday. I got an interview for you. Who is it? Oh boy, it's gonna be a surprise. I'll let y'all know probably on Twitter or Instagram when I know for sure. I think it's gonna be exciting. But I appreciate you being here. If you like the podcast, fucking hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. If you could give us a 5-star rating, write us a review, fucking beautiful. I got some magnets for the podcast, stickers for the podcast. Those will all be on Instagram at Full Service Pod. Give us a follow. I am at Tank Funkadelic. I'll see you on the other side. Hope everybody has a great week. Fucking if you love somebody, give them motherfuckers a hug. Let them know what's up, as you know when that's gonna be over. But I appreciate you being here. I will see you on Tuesday. Fucking later. Full service. Test, test, test. 1, 2, 3. Hey. Want to say something?
What up? How loudly can you hear me? Is it like because I can hear you very clearly.
Yeah, I got that Blue Yeti microphone. It works pretty well. I got it for Christmas.
It's not Christmas yet.
Well, I got it for last Christmas, for Christmas.
Oh, okay. It's about to be Christmas again.
And my parents
What are
have
you
no
gonna ask
idea
for
what I'm
this
using
year?
this for. I'm gonna get a sound system.
You're gonna get a sound. Who's gonna give you a sound system?
Santa Claus.
Santa Claus?
Yeah, I already gave my parents a heads up.
They know about it?
Well, they're the ones that communicate with Santa.
Right, obviously. Yeah. What if like Santa Claus was like a victim of like domestic abuse or something, and like Mrs. Claus like makes him do all the shit that he does? She's like, "You will provide for me."
She's the one that get the fuck out, get in that sled, bitch.
She's like the slave driver behind like the elves and shit. She's like,
I bet you Miss Claus is a fucking cop, straight up.
Oh my god, did you see that pair of shoes that I sent you? The ones that had the teeth on the bottom?
Yeah, that shit was weird.
Dude. I mean, that's a what are those situation if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, I never seen no shit like that before. That's kind of weird.
Nobody wears those. I mean, they're also the size of like a baby's feet. Yeah. Those are like baby shoes, but with adult teeth on the bottom.
Yeah. That was weird.
This is so bizarre. So this just records your conversation?
Yeah, so I could just, if I wanted to, I could just take this recording and put it on wherever.
So you don't even really need like a cell phone. You can just use this.
Yeah, you could just use this and just plug headphones into your computer. You don't even need a phone. And plus, it's like
I mean,
good quality. Like, 'cause you can do Skype too. Like, Skype allows you to do record your calls and shit, but the audio quality is really bad.
yeah, this is pretty good. It's like kind of sounds like you're like right here.
Yeah,
Like it's pretty
I mean,
good.
you too. Like, even though you don't have like a,
It's better than a phone.
but I'm sure there's other VoIP calls you can do where you don't need a phone. You can just go to a website and call through a website or some shit.
That's good because my dad is canceling my phone service. So
I don't know what I would do if my parents canceled my phone service. So I'm 30.
so now my dad has like a 5-person phone plan on Sprint and I'm the only person on it and I feel like a real dick. You know what I mean? Like I probably should get my own phone line, but I'm also waiting for my fucking lawsuit money because that's gonna be like legit as fuck when I get that money. Like I'm gonna have the whitest
The
teeth
bloodiest
and like the
nose.
blondest hair. I'm gonna get like 10 tattoos. Like, I mean, it's gonna be a
Man, I need to get my
transformation.
I need to get my tattoo
So,
fixed. My tattoo is fucked up.
dude, I mean, all you gotta do is get run over by a car.
All I gotta do is break my
And
fucking.
you can get yourself some money also. You could also get money. I mean, I'm getting
What did you break?
25 grand for pain and suffering. I broke my knee, but my ankle
Okay.
bone was sticking out. Like it
Oh
wasn't
god.
broken, but my bone was exposed. And so when they had to like sew, I have a huge scar on my ankle. I'll show you the next time you're over here. I'm pretty sure I've shown you pictures. Have I
Damn.
not?
Oh my
I thought I showed
god.
you pictures of it. Cause it's gnarly. Like it was real gross. It was really bad.
Damn.
But anyways, like
Here, let me call you. Let me call you on the phone. I'm gonna hang up on this because I only have like a. I'll call you.
oh, it's still recording. Oh, that's
Yeah.
weird. Nah, you don't have to. I will talk to you later. Do you want to watch Watchmen on Monday?
Yeah, I think I can do that.
All right, word. Hit me up after you get off work.
All right, cool. Sounds good.
Okay, bye.
All right.